Once again, I want to say thank you to everyone who has come to the channel and subscribed and contributed in a positive way to the conversation that we're having. This being the day before the electoral meeting, I kind of wanted to add some levity into the conversation and maybe take this down a little bit different road so that we can illustrate a point about what the Founding Fathers had desired for our form of government. Now, everybody's looking at this and going, why are we looking at a picture of Dan Quayle? Well, Dan Quayle was a man who served as vice president under George H.W. Bush from 1988 to 1992. Now, there were a great many people that were in the running for that position, one of whom was Donald Trump. I'm going to show you on another page that Donald Trump didn't even make the cut. There was a final cut of people, and he didn't make it into the final four that eventually led to Mr. Quayle being appointed. Now, Dan Quayle said some things in the past that were just absolutely hilarious, and I just wanted to share some with you here, just to give you an idea of the man that beat Donald Trump out for vice president in 1988. One of my favorites is, I'm going to be a vice president, very much like George Bush was. He was proved to be a very effective vice president, perhaps the most effective we've had in a couple hundred years. I understand the importance of bondage between parent and child. There is one here about pollution, which is absolutely hilarious, is that it's not pollution that we need to, it's not pollution that's harming the environment, it's the impurities in our air and water that are doing it. So this was Dan Quayle's heritage as vice president. He was at one time labeled to be the dumbest person on the planet, and now that we have seen Donald Trump come out with his unprecedented comment, I think we might be foreshadowing what may be coming in the future. But I wanted to go to George H.W. Bush, the man who appointed him. Now, this was not an unintelligent man. Graduate of Yale, servant in the military, head of the CIA for a while, ambassador to the UN. He was a senator. Nobody ever questioned this man's dedication to conservatism and Republican beliefs and ideals. But unfortunately, the only thing this man is ever going to be known for is his read my lips only comment, the little 27-second blurb, where when asked about taxes, that he expressed his desire for there not to be taxes, new taxes on the American people, then later in his administration being forced to acquiesce and sign a piece of legislation that did in fact raise those taxes. Now, it was my belief that there was an opportunity that was missed there, where he could have come to the American people and said something to the effect of this: folks, I expressed some time ago that I did not want there to be new taxes on the American people, but Congress, being the voice of the people, being your representative, speaks louder than the president does. And they came in overwhelming numbers and said that we do need to raise taxes and we do need to have this happen. So, under the weight of the voice of the American people, I acquiesced and did sign the legislation that allowed for this, putting my desires below those of the American people. Now, that, having been characterized that way, probably would have led to the re-election of George H.W. Bush, but it was never characterized that way. It was always characterized that the man just went back on his word, or he reneged on a promise. And it wasn't really in his hands to make that promise to begin with, because those decisions are made by Congress. So the overriding thing there is that the part of our government that distinguishes it from others is that the people speak louder than any one individual does. So I wanted that to lead to something that I wanted to talk to you about in Article 2. Because what Article 2 does is it delineates the power to the legislature in the state to appoint electors. And it says, each state shall appoint in such manner as the legislature thereof may direct a number of electors, equal to the whole number of senators and representatives to which the state may be entitled in the Congress. So what they were doing there was they were saying, okay, we are going to allow the states to determine who these people are. That's going to be their job. Now remember something, at this time, folks, there weren't parties. You know, and I would ask this question of my audience, and maybe somebody can give me a good answer. If someone were to run for president that weren't a member of a party, and he were to somehow get the majority or the plurality of the vote, how would his electors be determined? He wouldn't get them from the Republican Party. He wouldn't get them from the Democratic Party. He wouldn't be a part of a party. So how would we determine electors to send to the Electoral College? Well, the Constitution tells us that this is under the purview and the authority of the legislature. And the legislature is this person who is supposed to be making that determination. That's why I believe that abdicating that power to the parties has been a problem for a great long time that nobody has addressed. That we now say that the legislature of the state no longer determines the electors, but the parties do, is not what is provided for in the Constitution. I think it's led to the entire problem that we've had here, where we say that electors need to be either from this party or from that party or from the other party. And it says here clearly that this is a purview of the legislature. But another point in here that I think speaks much more to what's going to happen tomorrow goes down to a part through some of this, weedy stuff that happens once they vote. Okay, number of votes for each, which list they shall sign and certify and transmit, sealed to the seat of the government of the United States, directed to the President of the Senate. The President of the Senate shall, in the presence of the Senate and the House of Representatives, open all the certificates, and the votes shall then be counted. So what this provides for is that when the states conduct their election, their electoral meeting, that those votes and the results of which are going to be signed, certified, and sealed. And the next person who's going to see them is going to be the President of the Senate. Not the media, not the town crier, not salon.com, the President of the Senate. So tomorrow there's going to be a whole bunch of people come out and say that, well, we polled this elector and that elector and this other elector, and we believe now for sure, without a shadow of doubt, that Donald Trump's going to be president, and everybody who said anything else is wrong, and blah, 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 blah. Well, that's not what the Constitution provides for. It provides for there to be a vote, and for it to go to the Senate, directly to the Senate, sealed. And if anything happens other than this on the tabulation session on the 7th, now remember, folks, I don't remember any time in our history where the media got involved in reporting on the December 19th meeting. Ever. Nobody went to those meetings and covered anything ever, like they're threatening to here. And I believe if they would attempt to reveal these results prior to these being transmitted to the President of the Senate, that goes to the validity of the vote. Just like remove and replace does, if it's used in an attempt to change a vote. So this is not over. No matter what the alleged or reported results are tomorrow, okay, just by somebody reporting them or being involved in them, if they're not the President of the Senate, they have no business being involved in it. So don't take it to believe like, well, okay, he's for sure going to be president. That's not going to be the case. It's really not the case. We won't know anything for sure definitively until the 7th, and we hear any challenges or we see anything happen between now and then. So, but I just wanted to reiterate the fact that we are a country that has a constitution that gives a voice to the will of the people, but it doesn't slave itself to it. We have electors that are appointed based on our representation, and those electors have a duty, and they've always had a duty, to look to a man and not just determine whether he meets the minimum requirements to be president, but if he's suitable to be president. And without that, I don't think we would have made it this far. So I like to keep all my videos under 10 minutes, so I want to cut this down, but I wanted to say thank you again to everybody. With your help, we have been able to block and hide over 200 trolls from Trump supporter. So I have never made any assertion that this channel is going to be this giant moneymaker, or I really care so much about how many views it does or doesn't get. If that number would jump to 2,000 in the next month, I would be fine with that. So comment down here if you want to contribute to the conversation and talk about the Constitution. We are more than happy to have you. But if you're going to come here and you're going to make comments that attack people and belittle people and ridicule people, it's very simple to block and hide. So anyway, have a great weekend, folks, and we'll see you next time. Thanks.